Okay, so for this stage, we're going to highlight. I put all of those highlighted areas in here on the canvas, and we're going to use cadmium yellow light. Yes, cadmium yellow light, cadmium red light, and yellow ochre. Now I have a mixture of yellow ochre and cadmium red light over here. That's mainly I think the color of the original wall. And I'm going to use yellow ochre in it. So I'm sorry, cadmium yellow light. So keep cadmium yellow light mixed with yellow ochre and cadmium red light separate. So this is yellow ochre and red, and this is yellow ochre, red, and yellow right here. So I'm using a round brush because I want to control that brush stroke. And I'm going to come here. The strong yellow is in the center. If you look at your reference, you will see that this yellow, the strong one, is in here. And then it becomes kind of mid-tone in between. So this is when I'm going to take my yellow ochre and red. With a bit of yellow. And this. And push that color down. So the strong yellow, you don't want it to be the strong yellow, which is where I added a lot of yellow to my yellow ochre and red, should be in the center. And then all around it, you'll start to see a bit of yellow ochre and red all around. And push it down. Now I can adjust a bit. So I'm taking now this yellow ochre and red. I still have the mixture of yellow ochre, red, and cadmium yellow light on my brush. And I'm just kind of working it around. Or it's like a dry brush. I will wait for it to dry and then I'll adjust if it needs any adjustment. I'm pushing some of that yellow, cadmium yellow light mixed with yellow ochre and red into the darker part, just a bit, because I want to add, a very soft highlights here and there. Okay, this needs a bit of red. Okay, it's good. Oh, that's awesome. Red works. More red. I'm going down because I can see red in here. All here, I can see red. I'm going down. And that's what I like about this wall. It has that beautiful red in there and yellows and all kinds of interesting warm colors. just changing to from a round to a bright or flat. Hmm. I'm adjusting the shape of this highlight. Okay. You know, just paint what you see. I can hear the snow falling off the outside. Is it happening where you are too? Can you hear the snow falling off the roof?
It's dripping for sure.
Dripping or falling, or I don't know what's happening, but it's funny. Let's do that. There we go. Bit of red with my yellow ochre, go over this. Love this red. It's that orange, earthy orange. It's beautiful. Okay. So we'll have the same. We'll do the same. We're going to take cadmium yellow light and mix it with a yellow ochre and red. And we're going to come here, just the wall, not this part. We'll do this part with the color we're using. But just the wall, start from here and go down. And another one here. First layer, soft highlights, and then I increase the intensity of the highlight slowly. Cadmium yellow light, just cadmium yellow light down here in the center. And then soften. Soften it, meaning add the add some yellow ochre and red. Again, yellow ochre, some red. All around to kind of soften the transition, and that makes this red, this yellow pop too. So when you darken around that, not really darken, but change the intensity and the color around it, it makes it pop. Okay, I'm gonna add yellow here, strong yellow. And then I go back to yellow ochre and red and soften the edges. Because the edge, when you put this edge is very harsh when you put the yellow. To soften it, to make it blend, go back to yellow ochre and red and maybe add a bit of yellow in there too, if you find that it's too dark. Okay, spread it a bit, spread that highlight a bit. I know it's not there, in there, it's not the way I'm doing it, but that's okay, because this is really a very small area. And if you put just yellow in here and yellow in there with nothing in between, it looks a bit strange. This is yellow ochre and red. Right, so I'm gonna highlight a bit on this area, in this area here, on this wall. So we have a nice kind of soft distribution of highlight all around. And it's not only on the right hand side. Same, so I'm using cadmium yellow light, and I mixed it with a touch of yellow ochre, very, very small amount. Now it's cadmium yellow light again. I'm gonna let it dry. And I'm gonna take yellow ochre. I didn't clean my brush. Yellow ochre, touch of red in it. And then come back here and soften all around. So there's a nice transition from strong yellow to dark orange. That's good. That's really good. It looks good. Okay. I'm not going to highlight it more than this. It's enough on this side. Sun is more showing on the right-hand side, so the left side could be just soft. We can keep it just soft, just the way it is. Okay, for this part, where it looks like the paint is peeling and weathered, and we're going to glaze this on. So I have Naples yellow here and yellow ochre.
You're glazing or dry brushing?
Glaze, dry brush, whatever. I'm gonna wipe my brush, and it has water in it, but not a lot. Like I dipped my brush, put it here. It's good. You don't want it to be too watery because then you'll have, the paint will not work. Okay. With the tip of your brush. We might need a bit of more yellow ochre in here. If you find the color too light, put some yellow ochre in there, more yellow ochre. I see here up top, it needs a bit of more touch of red, very, very small amount of red. Wow. Mixed with that yellow ochre and Naples yellow. Now that I have this color, I see in between right here should be darker. So I'm going to take yellow ochre, red, just yellow ochre and red. I'm going to try not dark enough. Let's bring raw umber. Okay. Okay. Yellow ochre, red, touch of raw umber to darken. There, that should be okay. Let's try. It's a bit darker than what it's supposed to be, but let's try it. I think it will look fine, personally. If you find those highlights that we put there are too flat, break it up, break them up a bit with the color. Go over the color with the dry brush, those spots of very light red, light off-white that we put in there. Soften them a bit. I just cleaned my brush with water only, and I'm just spreading the color. Just water, and then moving around the color to soften. Adding a touch of more of raw umber in here to make it more earthy. Raw umber with the yellow ochre in red. So more raw umber to make it more earthy. It's turning the colors. I'll call you back. All right. That's good. It doesn't matter what you get as far as shape. Doesn't matter. You know, like I'm getting a shape kind of going that way. It doesn't really matter. As long as you have a nice texture in there. The more textured the wall is, the nicer it will look. This is old weathered. Okay. Now, let's do the same thing. I'm gonna let this dry a bit and then I'll adjust if it needs any adjustment. Let's do the same thing on the left side. Naples yellow, yellow ochre. Wipe my brush, come here and add some suggestion of a peeling paint. It's strange that how in Europe they like, I mean, this is beautiful. This is, you don't feel like you want to get someone to clean it up for you and put a nice paint,
Yeah,
you know, they leave it just like that and it looks fantastic.
yeah,
It's part of the charm.
yeah, it is.
This is the same, I'm doing the same right now. I'm putting Naples yellow and yellow ochre, and it's a dry brush. The smaller your brush, the more texture you're gonna get. The wider the brush, the bigger the brush, the less texture you're gonna get. I'm doing the same thing. Red, yellow ochre, and raw umber, wide brush. Wipe it. It needs water. Wipe it. Okay. Let's leave it like that. Okay, raw umber and titanium buff. It's more, it's a bit dark right now, more on the raw umber side. And I'm using a flat, small brush for this part. Now, I take my round brush, and I'm going to take more of that raw umber. Oops, some water. Wipe my brush, blend. Okay. I don't want to lose the strong darks completely, but again, at the same time, I don't want them to look like a line, a dark line. So I'm just trying to clean up a bit here. Okay. Now I'm going to take more of the titanium buff and I'm going to highlight part of this. Don't take your highlight all the way here. This should be dark where the curtain meets the frame of the window. It's better if it's dark. It turns over here, that sheer, it just turns a bit.
Lael, that highlight that you're using, is that another fold underneath?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't sure where that was coming.
yeah, yes. So if you look at the actual curtain in the window, the highlight or the darks, they don't go all the way. So the dark is here, right there, but it does go all the way up, but it becomes really thin. So even the dark and the light are different sizes, length, width. They're not, this is when I start adjusting with highlights and darks. So this is where I come here and I highlight more this area, let's say, right there. And that will soften the strong dark that I put in there. The line, it's there, but it's not heavy. It looks more realistic. If it's easier, instead of starting with the dark, use mid-tone like these, like here, like this. Let's take the mid-tone and just fill it, fill that area. Let's take again more, okay. All right, so we have a nice mid-tone color now. Now I can come here to the side, take just raw umber, and then add a fold. And you see, because the paint is wet, when I add that dark, it's not a dark line, it's a dark shadow. It looks much, much softer. Now I'm going to take light titanium buff and just highlight a bit this area. It's just playing with the values. That's all I'm doing. And because we're using two colors only, it's easy to control. Okay. Again, mid-tone. It will dry darker. Your mid-tones will dry darker. Raw umber. titanium buff. I'm just going back to the ones that I've done before because they're dry now. I can highlight. Soften, highlight, adjust. All of these things can be done now. Doesn't have to look exactly the same, you know, what I'm doing here, but if you feel like it looks like a folding shear, that's good. It's good enough. Right, so I have to keep an eye on the movement of those. These are repeating exactly the same. So I need to adjust them. They shouldn't be like that. It needs to be adjusted a bit. Let's take medium tone or medium. Now, clean my brush. I'm just changing the direction of that fold. If just kind of if possible. Just try not to have the folds repeating exactly the same right next to each other. If you find that they are, break it. The width shouldn't be the same. And they're not that wide. So the highlight is not wide. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of go over and soften a bit that highlight. The more highlights you put on them, the wider they look. Take your time and watch. Take your time. So don't rush. And watch what your brush stroke is doing. It is a great exercise in value. So now I'm shifting a bit the balance to this side. So you see here, this is wide, and actually, if I'm doing it, I'm supposed to be doing it the right way. This should not exist. This is a long, perfect line that's going from here to here. It shouldn't be like that. So I should camouflage it. Let's see. Let's take a bit of highlight. Just titanium buff. Highlight and break it. Down here too. Break that. That's better. That's better. Again, right here. That's from here to here. It's exactly the same. Highlight this a bit. Make it wider. Like that. So once you start seeing a fold, work on it. You'll probably need a bit of white later on. Just tiny bit. All right. Right. Okay. So let's widen this over here. Okay, that looks good. Now, let's go back to the midtones, apply it here on this side. Narrow, wide, highlight. The brush is a bit too dry, it shouldn't. It should be seamless and smooth. Again, that's a very long line. That's exactly the same. So I'm going to put a bit of highlight and stop. Put a highlight here, highlight there, and stop. So I can break that line. So with folds, lines are not, they don't continue the same. They change. They change direction. Okay. Now, highlight. And then highlight right here. Okay. Midtone. Midtone. Midtones will soften whatever you're putting in there. Now, this is a wide fold. So I have a highlight, midtone, and dark. And I'm going to bring the dark over here like that. So now from here to this part, all of this dark, it's wide, narrow, and let's adjust it a bit. Let's widen this a bit. Now, highlights. All right, it's good. Right, now, again, midtone. Perfect. Right here. Let's darken a bit more. Okay, let's put it here. if once I put the midtones, that will tell me, I can tell then, and shape. I can tell if this part needs to be highlighted, changed, whatever I need to do. But this is shaping now. I'm going to take just titanium buff mixed with my midtones. And I'm going to come here and because this is too wide. And I'm going to just add a bit of a highlight. Very soft, soft one coming that way. Again, titanium buff. All right. Perfect. All right, more of a highlight right here. I'm not even looking at the reference anymore. I'm just going by what I'm seeing here. And you don't want to make it look like it's just sagging that way and the, just movement like this. See here? I made it more like sharp edge, like that. That's how fabric is when it's folded. I'm going to do the same here. Okay, good. Let's put some midtones here. Here. So I start with midtones. It's easier. And highlights, a bit of highlight to see the shape. If this looks too flat, like for right now, this part looks flat right now. So what I'm going to do is going to go in. All right, now I'm going to highlight here to round it, make it rounded. And I'm going to go in with more of the raw umber. By the time you get into the last couple of brush strokes, it works. At the end, it starts working. It always happens to me. I'll be trying to get it to work, and then at the end it works just by fluke. Or maybe because I'm practicing. It's all an illusion, all of this. Just working with your values. Okay, good. Soften the edges. Soften those edges. They don't have to be too sharp because they're behind the frame. Right. Okay, what am I seeing? All right, let's darken this a bit. Hmm. Right here, it's too flat, this area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight a bit and turn this. So when we're getting to those folds, it's not as sudden from flat to folds. So I'm going to play around with this a bit. That's better. So highlighting this area is much better than keeping it dark. Yep, much better. Good. All right. Now, last thing, I'm gonna take raw umber, mix it a bit, make it, mix it a bit with my titanium buff. I'm gonna come here. I think I need more raw umber. All of this will look different once we start putting the color of the frame and all of the colors around it. Right now, it looks a bit maybe too much or strange, but once we start adding the frame, the green shutters and everything else, it will look much better. Okay, we have a major problem. Those three lines are, or these two next to each other are too equal. So let's break them up. All right, that's better. Okay. Good. Let's do some softening. Okay. Now, if we're going to keep this dark right there, we should repeat this somewhere else. It will look nice. Let's say repeat it here. That kind of value in there. So this doesn't look like it's the only one. Maybe again, right there. Okay, that's good. All right.